I like the list. For me, number one, without a doubt, would be Tyler Hansbrough. He led the ACC in scoring and rebounding. Then he broke those records for all time. So I think you got to put Tyler Hansbrough number one. Took him to a national championship game his senior year. Just what a way to end for him. I like the Reddick pick that you added on there, Mike. I mean, because he did leave the ACC. When he left, most points. So I think that's good too. And I think he made like 54 consecutive free throws at one time. So I think you got to put that on there too. But for me, one player that I love that I didn't see on the list, Jameer Nelson. I mean, a lot of people forget about him because he played at St. Joe's from 2000 to 2004. But St. Joe's, they've been irrelevant since then. But you got to remember when he was there, they went 27-1 in the regular season. He took them to number one in the nation. Then he took them to the NCAA tournament where he led them to the Elite Eight, just like Stephen Curry did. But the problem was Oklahoma State kept them out of the Final Four because they hit a buzzer beater in that Elite Eight game to keep them out. So I think Jameer Nelson, who put his team on the back, carried St. Joe's to prosperity, to the mountaintop where they've never been since. I think, for me, I love Jameer Nelson.
I think a big difficulty in making these lists is looking at how long a player played. I mean, we tell a lot of these guys, had long careers playing for their teams. But you look at a guy like Derrick Rose. I mean, he played 1 year for Memphis, but if he had stayed for 2 or 3, he'd probably be on this list.
A guy like Kevin Durant.
I mean, and they would have had a couple more Final Four banners come down from the rafters.
Maybe even Tyreek.
Oden, Greg Oden, Conley Jr.
Yeah, even Tyreek Evans last year. I mean, I know they didn't go to the Final Four, but imagine if he had stayed 2 or 3 years. So you go down the line of guys who didn't stay that long. Carmelo Anthony didn't stay that long at Syracuse. I mean, you go on the line. So I think it's tough to make these lists, and it's tough to find a standard for who should be on it. Is 1 year, does that qualify you, or do you need to play 2 or 3, or be like a Tyler Hansbrough, J.J. Redick, Darren Williams?
For me,
stay
it's
for
the
a long
longevity.
Time.
I think if you're there for 4 years, that definitely makes you, because then, of course, you're there for the long-term records, too. So at least that's just my opinion.
Right, and that was part of what I liked about Evan Turner. He could have gone to the NBA last season even. And he came back, had a mission. He has a little bit of a team side to him. A lot of these guys you saw that with. So. And
before we go, I did a list of my favorite coaches, the coaches that I think did the best job this past decade, and I only got 3 of them because I think 3's enough. Number 3, I'm going to put Billy Donovan. And the reason why he's not higher is because the last 2 years of the decade they went to the NIT. But he went to 3 Final Fours and won 2 national titles. And he put Florida on the map in basketball. So for me, I put Billy Donovan number 3. Number 2, I put Tom Izzo. Tom Izzo, 4 Final Fours, 2 national title game appearances, and he won 1 national title. So I think Tom Izzo, number 2, keeping Michigan State a great power, taking him to the tournament every single year the past decade. And number 1, I think it's not even a question. It's Roy Williams. He did a great job at Kansas, took him to a national title game where they had a heartbreaking loss to Syracuse, and then he rebuilt North Carolina, and he won 2 national title games over North Carolina, and he took him to 5 Final Fours. So I think Roy Williams, without a doubt, is the best coach. I think there's some other names you could throw out there. I think Bill Self you could put on there for what he did at Kansas, taking him to national title. But the reason why I wouldn't put him in the top 3 is he only has 1 Final Four appearance, and that was the year they won the national title. A lot of Elite Eight appearances, and a lot of people don't mention what Bill Self did at Tulsa in 2000, taking them to the Elite Eight back then. So I think he did a great job there. Took Illinois to the Elite Eight, and then obviously taking Kansas to the national title, taking them a win. Any other names you guys want to throw out there?
You mentioned Bill Self, too, and Bruce Weber got a little criticism for this when they kind of had a little bit of a drop-off. But, a lot of those players were Bill Self's players. I mean, when Bruce Weber took over, that was a stacked team. So, even though he left Illinois, people were a little mad about that. He left them in good hands with a loaded roster. I really like that. And then, Coach K, face of the game, you got to put him in there. Especially with the job that he was able to do, not only with Duke, but and I know this is shifting a little bit over to the pros, but what he was able to do with that very egotistical, dream team that we have now with the NBA or with the U.S. Olympic team. A college coach using what he used to get his teams to play together, to get the U.S. to play together after embarrassing themselves 4 years before.
Yeah, and the reason why I didn't put Coach K number 3, and I thought about it, Duke actually had the most wins last decade out of any basketball team, but he only went to 2 Final Fours. He did win 1 national title, but it was so early in the decade, and I felt kind of toward the end of the decade, they tapered off a little bit, and, if going to the Sweet 16s tapering off a little bit, that shows you how great of a coach you were, and I definitely think he'd be in the top 5, top 6, but, out of the top 3, I thought Donovan, even though toward the end of the decade, he's done a great job.
And for staying You know,
Florida.
leaving for a day, but for staying with Florida when he could have gone to the NBA.
And
I
Kentucky.
love that.
Kentucky wanted him really bad,
and
too.
I love the Izzo pick as well. I mean, your top 3 are my top 3, but you know, if it was a list of 5, I'd put Self and Coach K in there.
Yeah, Coach K, what people also don't remember is he won 7 ACC conference tournament championships. And when you think about North Carolina, Maryland, Clemson, some of the teams that are just consistent with athletes, and you talk about the history of the conference, the ACC is the best conference in college basketball, typically year in and year out. The Big East has been on the rise, the Big Ten challenges occasionally, but I think you could arguably say that the ACC is the best conference. And for him to be able to win that conference tournament every year, getting his team #1 seeds, having the most wins in the decade in the toughest conference in basketball, it's very reputable and it's very impressive. But again, yeah, like you said, not being able to, you know, after that national championship in 2001, getting to one more Final Four, and then, you know, during the Hansbrough era, really kind of just only getting to the Sweet 16, which, you know, here at Iowa we'd love to have, but at Duke, that's not.
I literally would kill
at Duke. At Duke, they demand better. So it's interesting. And
well,
I want to give
with
one.
VCU of that loss to VCU and LSU in the tourney, those really come to mind.
I want to give one more shout out, Jim Boeheim, winning a national championship. I know he's had some down years here and there, but he got himself a national championship. And look at Syracuse this year. You know, Jim Boeheim's team wasn't supposed to be where they are now, and look what he's done. He's got that 2-3 zone employed, and it does such a great job. I think Syracuse plays some of the best defense year in and year out in college basketball.
And one name we're forgetting, maybe because of how miserable of a year the conference is having, but Ben Holland, was it 3 straight trips to the Final Four for UCLA? That was impressive. You know, it doesn't really matter the strength of your conference if you're getting to the Final Four. I know they weren't able to get the job done, but 3 Final Fours in a row is very impressive.
Did a great job at Pittsburgh, too.
Yeah.
Something a lot of people don't remember.
Turned it into the job you wanted to have. Not, you know, Jamie Dixon has an elite coaching job now. I think me and you have talked about that before. You know, no one's going to be leaving Pitt to go to UCLA now.
Yeah, definitely. And so maybe we'll come back in 10 years. We'll do another one. I don't know what we'll be doing, or even if we'll be alive, or what's going on 10 years from now. But if we're around,
Sure hope so.
We'll come back and we'll don the desk and we'll do another one of these shows maybe. But if you want to comment on what we talked about, maybe you want to send us your own list, uiowaist@gmail.com. That is our email address. And if you go to our YouTube page, uiowaist, we got some videos, some past episodes on there. Don't watch the prediction parts because we're wrong a lot. I noticed that when I was going through those the other day. So for Mike Rabin and Jordan Loprena, I'm Alex Salzma. Good night and go Hawks.
Duke when he left, and they asked him how he felt about leaving the rivalry, and he said, "What rivalry?"